Psychology facts about women, especially in the context of human intimacy, often go unspoken. Because when it comes to sexual behavior, especially oral sex, society has chosen a strange approach. We joke about it, we whisper about it, we hint at it in movies and locker room conversations, but we almost never talk about it with emotional honesty. It's treated like taboo, a topic reserved for humor, gossip, or secrecy. And yet, beneath all that cultural noise, there's something far more human going on. Because oral sex isn't just physical, it's emotional, psychological, chemical. How a person engages in it, whether confidently, nervously, or not at all, can reveal more than most people ever realize. It can expose how someone feels about themselves, how vulnerable they're willing to be, how they connect or avoid connection with their partner. And today, we're going to explore that quiet world. The one that lives behind the closed doors, beneath the headlines, inside the emotional architecture of intimacy. We're going to break down 4 lesser-known psychological truths about oral sex, each one backed by science, human behavior research, and personal experience. Not to shock, not to scandalize, but to understand. Because when you understand the psychology of sex, you begin to understand yourself and your partner in an entirely new way. Fact 1. Let's start with something you may have never connected to this act. Oral sex can strengthen emotional bonds, not just emotionally, but hormonally. Here's how. Any kind of touch, especially affectionate or sensual touch, has the ability to release a chemical called oxytocin, also known as the bonding hormone or the love molecule. But oral sex triggers it more intensely. It's the same chemical that floods a woman's body during childbirth, breastfeeding, cuddling, and long, meaningful hugs. What does oxytocin do? It tells your brain, this person is safe. This person is mine. I want to be close to them. In committed or trusting relationships, the act of giving or receiving oral sex often becomes more than just stimulation. It becomes a kind of ritual of emotional connection. You're not just touching a body, you're wiring the brain for trust, empathy, and closeness. That's why many studies have shown that couples who regularly engage in non-penetrative sexual acts, especially oral sex, report higher levels of emotional intimacy, relational satisfaction, and communication. It's not just about technique, it's about the emotional intention behind it. I'm here with you, I see you, I want you to feel pleasure, not just physically, but emotionally. That kind of presence is rare. And when combined with oxytocin release, it builds a connection that's not just arousing, but anchoring. Fact 2. Psychological motives. What the act reveals about the person. Now let's explore something deeper, and a little more vulnerable. The way someone gives or receives oral sex can often reflect their inner emotional world. Some people offer it as a gift, an act of generosity, love, or affection. Others use it as a form of compensation, to feel valued, attractive, or even enough. And some people are hesitant to receive it at all. Why? Because receiving requires vulnerability. It means allowing someone to see you, touch you, please you, while you're doing absolutely nothing in return. And for many people, that triggers old feelings, shame from how they were raised, body image insecurities, fear of being seen too closely, or emotional trauma from the past. You see, sex is rarely just sex. It's often a mirror, reflecting our emotional blueprints. A person who eagerly gives but avoids receiving might be seeking approval. A person who refuses to engage at all might be guarding against emotional exposure. It's not always about arousal. Sometimes it's about what we're trying to protect, or what we're secretly craving, but afraid to ask for. And that's why understanding these deeper motives can completely transform a relationship. Because once you realize that what's happening in the bedroom often echoes what's happening in the heart, you stop taking things personally, you start asking questions, you start making space for compassionate, pressure-free communication. And that space? That's where real intimacy begins. Fact 3. Gender differences, how men and women perceive the act. Here's something few couples ever realize. Men and women often view oral sex through entirely different psychological lenses. For many men, receiving oral sex is tied to feeling wanted. It becomes a kind of ego boost, a physical affirmation of, she desires me, I'm attractive, I'm respected. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a very primal emotional reward, feeling admired, valued, chosen. But for many women, the emotional dynamics are far more layered. Some women experience oral sex as a beautiful, emotional act of closeness. But many others carry performance anxiety, fear of judgment, worries about body image or scent, or how they look under that kind of focus. And for some, there's a subconscious pressure to reciprocate, to perform, to please. This mismatch in psychological perception can lead to subtle misunderstandings in relationships. One partner may see it as a light, pleasurable experience. The other may feel it's emotionally heavy, linked to trust, shame, or past trauma. And the more we pretend these differences don't exist, the more distance they create. Because culture, religion, upbringing, and even past relationships, all of it shapes how we view acts like oral sex. It's not just about pleasure. It's about how we've been taught to see our bodies, our worth, our desirability. That's why shame-free conversations are essential. Because when we talk about it, we create room to shift the dynamic from fear to freedom, from confusion to closeness. Short-term mental health benefits. Here's one that might surprise you. Oral sex, in the right context, can actually contribute to short-term mental health benefits. Yes, you heard that right. Now, this isn't just an internet myth or pop psychology trivia. There's biochemical evidence that supports it. Let's break it down. Semen, scientifically speaking, contains natural mood-regulating compounds. Dopamine, linked to pleasure and motivation. Serotonin, stabilizes mood and combats depression. Melatonin, helps regulate sleep and calm the nervous system. Oxytocin and prostaglandins reduce stress and create feelings of emotional closeness. When oral contact is made, especially when there's mutual trust and safety in the relationship, some of these compounds can be absorbed through the mucous membranes. This doesn't mean oral sex is a substitute for therapy or antidepressants, but in a secure, loving context, it can offer a temporary lift in mood, reduction in anxiety, or even deeper emotional relaxation. Think of it like exercise or deep cuddling, not a cure, but a boost. But here's the caveat, and it's a big one. Without emotional safety, the effect can backfire. In relationships lacking trust, consent, or communication, sexual acts, especially ones this vulnerable, can lead to regret, emotional withdrawal, heightened anxiety, or shame. That's why the context always matters more than the act. When intimacy is grounded in mutual respect, the body responds with openness. When it's rushed, manipulative, or emotionally unsafe, the body reacts in protection. So if you're looking for emotional depth, not just chemistry, start by creating psychological safety. That's where all the real magic begins. Sex is psychological first. All of these insights lead us to one central truth. Oral sex isn't just physical stimulation, it's emotional data. It tells us about our own relationship with vulnerability, shame, trust, power, worthiness. It reflects how we communicate, how we ask, how we listen. And when done right, with presence, openness, and care, it becomes more than an act. It becomes a mirror into what we really feel, who we really are, and what we truly need. That's why intimacy can feel so confusing when we haven't explored our own emotional map. Because sex is not just about how you touch someone. It's about why you're touching them and what you hope they'll feel. Why this conversation matters now more than ever. Here's the deeper problem. We live in a culture where performance is taught, but emotional awareness is neglected. Where people feel pressure to act sexy before they've ever felt safe, and where silence around intimacy creates more pain than pleasure. That's why this conversation matters. Because when we shift from shame to awareness, from pressure to presence, from secrecy to honesty, we start to create relationships that are stronger, healthier, and more real. And isn't that what we all want? Not just pleasure, but meaningful connection. Not just stimulation, but understanding. Because behind every intimate moment lies something much deeper. A need to be valued, a desire to feel seen, a hope that what happens in the dark can lead to something honest in the light. So whether you're just exploring intimacy, deep in a committed relationship, or trying to better understand yourself, remember this. What happens behind closed doors isn't just about desire. It reflects your identity, your emotional patterns, your history, and most of all, your need to feel loved without judgment. That need is not weak. It's not shameful. It's human. When you embrace intimacy, not as a performance, but as a space for honesty, empathy, and psychological truth, you change not just your sex life, but your entire relationship with yourself and others. You build bonds that aren't based on fantasy, but on emotional presence. You create space where healing happens, and you learn that your vulnerabilities, shared with the right person, become your greatest strength. If this message resonated with you, if it made you think differently about human behavior, or helped you better understand your partner or yourself, then take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Here we don't sell tricks or shock value. We explore the real psychology behind love, sex, emotion, and connection. Because intimacy, when done right, isn't just pleasurable, it's transformative. So drop a comment below, share your thoughts, let us know what topic you want explored next. And until next time, take care of yourself, take care of your relationships, and take care of the people who trust you with their vulnerability. Because behind every intimate act is a person who just wants to feel safe, seen, and loved.